Today we're going to talk about something that's probably going to surprise some people. I'm going to tell you why clutter is actually a good thing in today's video. Welcome back to the Decluttering Workshop. It is day 5, and considering I have a group called the Declutterathon and I write a lot about decluttering and getting rid of stuff we're no longer using, you might be surprised and possibly a little confused to hear me say that clutter is actually a good thing. Like, what in the world is Emily talking about? Maybe running through your mind right now. The reason I say it's a good thing is because clutter is just a symptom of something else that's going on in our lives. So I think of my house being cluttered as like my house having a fever, okay? Or maybe the check engine light coming on in my car. When the check engine light comes on, I know it's not the light that's the problem. There's something under the hood, right? There's something else going on. The light is just there saying, hey, you need to check something out. It's the same thing with a fever. A fever is just a symptom of some other virus or something going on in the body that the body's trying to fight off. So when we see a fever, sometimes people fixate on the fever and trying to lower the fever. But a lot of doctors will say a fever is a good thing. A fever is your body trying to fight off whatever is actually causing the fever. And I think of clutter as the exact same thing. Clutter is just our house having a fever. It's our check engine light for our life. It's a sign that, hey, something needs to be checked in on, right? There's something wrong. Clutter can't necessarily tell us what's wrong, and no one else can necessarily even tell us what is wrong. But it's a sign, it's a signal that something needs to be checked in on for our lives to be happier, run more smoothly, and for the clutter to actually disappear. This is why I've said for years now that clutter is not about the stuff. So often people join the Declutterathon group or read my emails, read my blog posts, and think like, just give me the solutions for getting rid of the clutter, or how do I store this so that I don't have the problem anymore? But have you ever decluttered a space, gotten it organized? Maybe you've purchased containers and you've made it pretty and you thought, okay, this is actually going to work this time. And then you go on with your life, and like 2 weeks or 2 months later, all of a sudden it hits you, oh my gosh, the space is cluttered again. And it's like, how did this happen? Didn't I just organize this? And then we get into this mental tape of this like mental negative spiral of like, what's wrong with me? Why am I such a slob? I can't believe I've let it get this way again. I think that whenever that happens, it's because there's some underlying issue that has not been addressed. I don't think that we can address our clutter and solve the issue once and for all if we're not also addressing the emotional and mental things, the thoughts, the habits that have created the mess in the first place. Clutter may not feel like a good thing. It can stress us out. It can make us feel overwhelmed. It can make us embarrassed of our homes and, want to shut people out. I have done that for longer than I care to admit. But if we start to think about clutter differently and think about clutter as more a messenger that's delivering to us a message that says, hey, I think something might be a little wrong here. Maybe you need to take a little more time for yourself. Maybe you just need to establish better systems and routines that work for your life. Or maybe there is a deeper trauma and emotional issue that needs to be addressed. And it's only by working through that you can get rid of the clutter once and for all. I spent years trying to solve my clutter issues by focusing on the stuff. I thought if I just had the right containers, if I just knew the right way to arrange things, then everything would be in order and I wouldn't have this problem anymore. But that didn't work. And after years and years of trying and failing, getting frustrated, feeling down on myself and being overwhelmed and miserable, I realized, there's something deeper going on here. There's something bigger going on here. And it was only by kind of going through those feelings, working through those emotions, anytime I found something that I didn't like and didn't use, and yet found myself like, but I don't want to get rid of it, I kind of sat there and thought, okay, why? What is going on right now inside of me that this is something I don't like, don't use, or even sometimes I do like it, but if I'm not using it, I don't need it in my house, right? If this is not adding to my life, why am I holding on to this thing? And I eventually realized that I was holding on to these things because I was scared of forming close relationships with people and then getting rejected. Every person's reason for having clutter and mess is going to differ based on their own life experiences. So this is just what I have realized about myself. Your reason could be totally different. It was only once I started listening to the thoughts that I was having when I was trying to declutter and the emotions that I was feeling about these objects, most of which I was not using or did not like and yet was struggling to let go of. It was only when I started to pay attention to those things that I started to really get to the root cause of why I became cluttered in the first place. And the reason for that, for me, was basically a feeling of if people, okay, y'all, this is like, I'm getting vulnerable. Like, this is actually really deep stuff in me that I would not even say I'm 100% healed from. I've identified it, but I'm still working through it, which is probably why I'm still working through clutter, right? I'm still on this journey. But the reasons I've identified for myself are that I felt like if people get to know me, they reject me. If people get to know the real me, they don't like me and they won't want to be around me. So, or they leave. So it's easier to just not even get close to people and avoid the pain of either being rejected or being abandoned or left, whether that's through choice or, through their passing. I mean, if we want to be really morbid, we're all going to be left by the people we love at some day, or we're going to be doing the leaving, right? So I think I just subconsciously thought if I can just keep everyone at arm's distance and not get close to anyone, then I won't have to feel pain. Whew. Okay, I'm gonna have to pause for a minute. Okay, I'm back. I did not expect to get a little emotional there, but I think that is the sign, for me anyway, that I have tapped into what is beneath this. It's a very deep fear and belief and worry that I am unlovable, unworthy, etc. So anyway, without going into like a whole therapy session here, if you can identify what that kind of fear or feeling is for you, maybe it's a fear of never having enough. Maybe I have heard of people who grew up in extreme poverty and they fear that they will run out of things. They don't feel safe. So maybe it's a safety issue. Maybe it's a love issue like it is with mine. I think there are a lot of different issues. One theme I've always noticed anytime I've watched an episode of Hoarders is so frequently when they talk to the person and say like, when did this start? It usually has to do with some type of traumatic emotional experience. So you might be wondering, okay, well, I understand that Emily, you might have some issues and your house is messy. How do they connect? Well, the way they connect, just in case I haven't kind of clearly articulated this yet, is that by keeping my house messy, by keeping too much stuff, I couldn't let people come into my house. So clutter becomes the reason why I can't have people over, right? And I can kind of trick myself into thinking like, oh, it would be so great to have people over, but the house is messy. Oh, maybe next month that would be so fun. When the truth is, the house is messy, but what's below that is I'm scared to get close to people because I don't want to be hurt. The more we can tap into whatever is beneath the clutter, that root cause, that's really the only way to eliminate it. So I hope this was helpful. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think clutter is just a symptom of something else going on? Is this something you've ever thought about before? Have you thought about clutter kind of being a good thing because it's a messenger, or is this all new? Do you disagree? You're welcome to disagree. Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to give this video a thumbs up or even a follow to hear about more decluttering and organizing videos, that would be great. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you for day 6 of the decluttering workshop.